My name is Nate Callahan from Brunswick, Maine. What do you do when your own family betrays you, steals your future, and expects you to thank them for it? I was the forgotten son, until I became the one they couldn't survive without. This is the story of how I turned their betrayal into my power. And built a life they never saw coming. I used to think the world was fair. That if you worked hard and did the right thing, the people who mattered would notice. But when you grow up in someone else's shadow, you learn quickly. Some people only have room in their hearts for one golden child. In my family, that child was Owen. We grew up in Brunswick, Maine. Small town life, potlucks at the Congregational Church. Bonfires by the Androscoggin, the kind of place where everybody knows who you are, even when you wish they didn't. My dad, Hank, owned the local hardware store, and my mom, Janice, volunteered at every school function. On paper, we were the picture of a solid, small-town family, but inside our house, there were rules, unspoken ones. Owen got first pick. Of everything. Always. He got the new baseball glove. The extra dessert. The front seat. When we both wanted to try out for Little League, Mom told me, let Owen go first. You're not really the sporty type, Nate. I was 7, at first, I didn't think much of it. Brothers compete. Parents pick favorites sometimes, right? I figured if I kept my head down, got good grades, helped around the store, they'd see me too. But no matter what I did, it was like clapping in a room full of deaf ears. Owen was the varsity quarterback, the prom king, the kid who never seemed to get caught, even when we both snuck out at night. I was the one who got grounded. I was the one who had to explain missing tools from the shop or why the car's back bumper had a fresh dent. I didn't throw Owen under the bus. Not once. I thought being loyal would count for something. It didn't, the worst part. I don't think they even realized what they were doing. That's the thing about favoritism, it's quiet. It shows up in soft praise and louder silences. In how my dad lit up when Owen walked into a room, and barely looked up when I did. In how my mom used to show up to every one of Owen's football games but couldn't remember when my art exhibit opened. By the time I was a teenager, I'd stopped expecting much. I went from trying to impress them to just surviving them. I became the quiet one. The helper. The background character in my own story. Looking back now, I realize it wasn't just favoritism. It was a pattern. A long, subtle erasure of my worth. Every ignored achievement, every dismissed concern, chipped away at the foundation of who I was. And by the time the real betrayal happened, the kind you don't recover from easily, I wasn't surprised. I was already used to being invisible, but I wouldn't stay that way forever, because even forgotten sons learn how to build something from the shadows, something stronger, something that lasts. It was July, one of those thick, muggy Brunswick summers where the air sticks to your skin and everything feels heavy. Dad had asked me to haul some old boxes down from the attic. We're clearing space, he said. What he meant was, you're still useful for lifting things. The attic was a dust-coated time capsule. Old yearbooks, broken decorations, water-damaged photo albums. I didn't expect to find anything important. But then I spotted a battered file box shoved behind a trunk, sealed with masking tape and labeled, in my mom's handwriting, Nathan, Financial Docs. At first, I smiled. It was rare to see my name on anything that didn't involve chores or guilt trips. I figured maybe it held tax forms or my old savings bonds from birthdays past. But as I peeled the tape and flipped through the contents, the smile disappeared. Inside was a thick folder, bank statements, withdrawal slips, and a trust account my grandmother had set up for me when I was born. It was supposed to be for college. For my future. There had been over $38,000 in that account at one point. But the balance now? $32.47, I kept flipping. My stomach dropped with every page. One withdrawal stood out, $25,000, labeled simply, emergency legal fees. Oh, Callahan, I couldn't breathe. Owen's DUI. That night 2 years ago when he plowed his car into a mailbox and a parked SUV, narrowly missing a jogger. My parents said he handled it, that it wasn't as bad as the rumors made it out to be. They never mentioned money. Or lawyers. Or the fact they drained my future to clean up his mess. I went downstairs, gripping the folder like it might explode in my hands. My parents were in the kitchen, sipping iced tea like it was any other lazy Sunday. Did you take my college fund to bail out Owen? I asked. Mom blinked. Nate, where did you get that? The attic. The file says everything. You took my money. Dad didn't look at me. He stared out the window like I hadn't spoken. Mom sighed and set her glass down. We didn't have a choice. He could have gone to jail. So you sacrificed me. I snapped. You didn't even ask. You weren't using it, she said flatly. You weren't applying anywhere. You were still figuring things out. Because they made sure I never had the support to figure anything out. Then Owen strolled in, like he always did, confident, tan, and clueless. He looked at the papers in my hand and laughed. Come on, Nate. It was years ago. I needed help. We're family. Family, that word used to mean something to me, but in that moment, it became a weapon they used to excuse everything. To justify betrayal. To sweep my life under the rug, again, for Owen's sake. That was the day something broke in me. And something else started growing, not hate. Not yet, but resolve. They thought they'd buried me, they didn't know I was roots. I left 2 days after the attic, no dramatic goodbye. No angry speech or slammed doors. Just a silent walk to my car at dawn, with a duffel bag and the weight of 18 years pressing on my shoulders. My mom didn't call after me. Dad never came out. Owen was probably still asleep, dreaming easy in a bed that had always been made for him. Brunswick had stopped feeling like home a long time ago. But driving away from the only life I'd known still left a hollow pit in my chest. I didn't have a plan, just enough money for gas, a change of clothes, and the name of a guy in Bath who owed me a favor. Ray Talbot was an old friend of my grandfather's. He ran a rundown mechanic shop off Route 1 and had a reputation for taking in people who needed a second chance. I showed up with grease under my fingernails and anger in my bones. Ray looked me up and down, grunted, and pointed to a rusted-out trailer behind the garage. It's got a roof, hot plate, and a door that only sticks sometimes, he said. You work hard, we're square. I nodded. Deal. The trailer was barely livable. No AC, a shower that coughed rust, and mice that ran like they owned the place. But it was mine. No Owen, no condescending smiles, no you should be more like your brother. Just me, my tools, and silence. During the day, I worked 12-hour shifts under busted hoods and sun-beaten trucks. At night, I enrolled in online classes at the local community college, business courses mostly, sometimes mechanical engineering. I studied by flashlight when the power went out, using library Wi-Fi to take tests. I barely slept. I barely spoke to anyone, but for the first time in my life, I felt alive. Every paycheck I saved was a middle finger to the life they said I wasn't ready for. Every A I earned was proof that I wasn't the screw-up they made me out to be. I didn't party. I didn't post about my progress. I just built, quietly, methodically. I didn't want them to know how well I was doing. Not yet. I wanted them to feel it first, the absence. The silence. The missing puzzle piece they only noticed once everything started falling apart. And I knew, deep down, they would fall apart. Because without someone to clean up the mess, to hold things together in the background, they wouldn't last long. I wasn't angry anymore, I was focused. They'd stolen from me, my trust, my future, my place in the family. But I was rebuilding all of it, one bolt, one book, one day at a time. They buried me, but I was learning to grow from underneath the dirt. It had been 3 years since I left Brunswick. 3 years since I stepped foot inside that house, heard my name in their mouths, or gave them a single piece of myself. By then, I had earned my associate's degree, saved enough to upgrade from the trailer to a one-bedroom above Ray's garage, and was managing inventory and payroll like I was born for it. Quiet revenge was sweeter than I'd imagined, especially when no one knew it was happening. Then one rainy October morning, Owen showed up. I was halfway through rebuilding the brakes on an old Dodge when I heard a car door slam. I didn't think much of it until I saw him, designer jeans, puffy jacket, the same cocky grin that made people forgive him for everything. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. "Nate," he said, like we'd spoken yesterday. "Hey, man. You got a minute?" I stood slowly, wiping grease off my hands, watching him like he might vanish if I blinked. "What do you want?" He hesitated. That was new. "It's Dad. He had a stroke last week. Bad one." I waited. He kept going. "Mom's been trying to run the store, but she's overwhelmed. Sales are tanking. Half the shelves are empty. Our supplier dropped us. It's falling apart, man. And we need help." There it was. "We need help," translation, "we need you." I let the silence stretch. Owen shifted on his feet. "You always knew how the place ran," he added. "You're good with numbers. Systems. You could." I cut him off. "What about you?" He exhaled sharply, as if that question alone was unfair. "I'm doing what I can. But I've got my own stuff going on, work, bills, a kid on the way." A kid. Of course. Another life he'd stumble into unprepared while everyone else scrambled to catch him. I should have told him to leave. Told him that the store, their mess, was none of my concern. That I owed them nothing, but I didn't, because part of me wanted to see it. The chaos. The cracks in their perfect image. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted to show them who I had become, the man they never believed I could be, so I said, "I'll come take a look." Owen's shoulders dropped in relief. "Thanks, Nate. Really. Mom will be glad." I didn't do it for Mom. Or for Owen, I did it because I knew something they didn't. The forgotten son they left behind. He wasn't some scared kid anymore. He was sharper. Stronger. Unrecognizable even, and if they thought they were getting their savior back for free, they had another thing coming. This time, I wouldn't be used. This time, I'd set the terms. Walking back into Callahan Hardware felt like stepping into a mausoleum. The shelves were half empty, dusty. Tools that should have moved fast, bestsellers, were shoved in corners, unsorted. The lights buzzed overhead, too dim, and the air smelled like mold and desperation. This place used to hum when I was a kid. Now it looked tired. Just like my father, who sat behind the register, eyes glazed, one hand trembling in his lap. He barely looked at me when I walked in. My mother greeted me with a strained smile, like I was some distant cousin, not the son she'd quietly discarded. "We didn't know what else to do," she said as she handed me the books. I spent the next hour in the office, flipping through receipts and statements, each one worse than the last. Vendor accounts in the red. Late fees stacking like bricks. A second mortgage on the building. My stomach turned when I found the signature, hers, on a loan they clearly didn't understand. And it wasn't just mismanagement. Some entries had been rewritten, backdated, covered up. I walked out of that office not just angry, but insulted. "You didn't call me for help." I told them, staring them both down. "You called me because the walls were caving in and you thought I'd be dumb enough to hold them up." Owen leaned against the counter. "Nate, come on. It's not like that." "Really?" I snapped. "Then why didn't anyone call before the second mortgage? Or when vendors stopped shipping?" "You lied. Again. Like always." My mother's jaw tightened. "We did what we had to. Your father's health is not an excuse to torch what's left of this place." For a moment, none of them said anything. Then I pulled a manila envelope from my bag and dropped it on the counter. Inside were drafted transfer forms, notarized and ready. if you want my help, I said, you sign everything over to me. Full ownership. The business, the property, the accounts. No loopholes. No games. Mom looked at me like I'd slapped her. You can't be serious. I am. You take this from us? No, I said coldly. You took it from me. My future, my savings, my dignity. This is me taking it back. Owen scoffed. This is revenge, man. I didn't argue. Maybe it was. Maybe it was also justice. Dad finally spoke, voice cracked and slow. If he can save it, let him. My mother stared at the papers. Then at me. I could see the shame in her eyes, or maybe just fear. Either way, she picked up the pen and signed. That's the thing about leverage. You only need it when people think you're powerless. And for years, they thought I was nothing, but that day, I became something else. I became the one holding all the cards. I stood alone in the parking lot the morning after the papers were signed, watching the sun rise over the faded red sign, Callahan Hardware. The paint was peeling, the bolts rusted. It looked tired. Like something clinging to the past out of pride, not purpose. That sign was the first thing to go. By the end of the week, a new name went up in bold white letters against matte black metal. Ironclad Supply, no family name. No nostalgia. Just strength, and it felt good. I gutted the place. Took down the dusty deer heads Dad had hung decades ago. Tossed every outdated inventory binder, every water-stained catalog from 2006. The back office was turned into a proper workspace with new computers, updated software, and a cloud-based system that could actually track inventory in real time. The locals watched from a distance, murmuring about the changes. Some were skeptical. Others, curious. But I didn't care what they thought, not yet. I wasn't building this to please anyone, I was building it to last. I hired new staff, mostly younger guys from the trade school in Bath, people who were eager, teachable, and had never heard of Owen Callahan. A few older employees stayed, the ones who'd always done their job without kissing up to my family. I gave them raises and treated them like professionals. The shift in morale was instant. We expanded our product line, plumbing supplies, small engine parts, custom tool orders. I added an online ordering system and launched a local delivery service. Within 2 months, foot traffic had doubled. Within 6, vendors who'd once cut us off were calling me to ask if they could partner again. Still, the ghosts lingered. Customers would come in, glance around, and ask, "You Hank's boy? Or this used to be Callahan's, right?" Used to be. I never corrected them. I let the past die on its own. Mom stopped by once, maybe a month after the rebrand. She walked the aisles slowly, touching things like they were memories. She didn't say much, just mumbled, "It looks different." "It is different," I replied. She nodded and left. No hug. No apology. Good, because I wasn't looking for closure. I was too busy building something no one could take from me this time. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It had evolved into something purer: ownership, clarity, freedom. I had taken the thing they used to value most and made it my own, not by mimicking them, but by doing everything differently. I wasn't a Callahan anymore, not in the way they meant it. That name had always been theirs, this place. This legacy, it was mine. It started small. A few old customers stopped by out of curiosity. They'd glance around Ironclad Supply, eyes scanning the crisp shelves and clean floors, then do a double take when they saw me behind the counter. I could hear the surprise in their voices when they said my name, "Nate? You run this now?" Word spreads fast in a town like Brunswick. Within a few weeks, the whispers started. People who once barely acknowledged me at church or at the grocery store were suddenly bringing in their busted lawnmowers and broken-down snowblowers, smiling like we were old friends. "The place looks great," they'd say. "You really turned it around." Some were genuine. Most weren't, but I smiled back anyway, because now they had to come through me. the same people who used to laugh when Owen joked about me being the quiet one now asked if we carried specialty parts. Former classmates who never bothered to remember my name were DMing our business page asking if we were hiring. Even Mr. Taggart, the high school shop teacher who once told me I lacked initiative, came in for a replacement drill set. Funny how fast people forget the things they said when they thought you'd never matter. And then there were the friends. Ben, who used to hang out with me until Owen made fun of him for it. Kelsey, who ghosted me the week after I graduated without a party. Even Trevor, Owen's old drinking buddy who once called me dead weight at a barbecue, showed up like nothing ever happened. Hey, man. We should grab a beer sometime. Talk about business. Maybe catch up. I nodded politely, made small talk, then walked away. Because I remembered. I remembered who looked the other way when I was struggling. Who laughed when Owen belittled me. Who stayed silent when my parents drained my future for the sake of their golden boy. They were shadows in the rearview now, but not everyone was fake. Ray, who gave me my first job and let me live behind his shop rent-free, came by one evening just as we were closing. He looked around, took in the transformation, and gave a quiet nod. You did good, kid. I didn't need more than that. Coming from Ray, it meant everything, and there was Ellie, one of the few people from high school who'd ever treated me like I mattered. She stopped by with her dad one Saturday to buy some garden supplies. She smiled when she saw me. Not the fake smile most people wore now, but the kind that said I see you. Those were the people I remembered, the ones who showed up when there was nothing to gain. The rest, they could stay in the crowd, whispering. Let them talk. I wasn't building this to prove anything anymore. I was just living the life they said I never could. It was a Tuesday, quiet, cloudy, the kind of day when time feels slower than it should. I was sorting a delivery near the front register when the doorbell chimed. I looked up. It was her, my mother. She stood in the entrance like she wasn't sure if she should be there, her hands clutched tightly around the strap of her purse. Her hair was grayer than I remembered, and she looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but like time had shrunk the power she used to wield with a glance. Nate, she said, almost in a whisper. I nodded once, waiting. She stepped inside. Slowly, eyes drifting across the store like she didn't recognize it. Maybe she didn't. Everything was new now. The layout. The lighting. Even the scent, no longer old wood and dust, but fresh pine and oil. It's beautiful, she said. You've really made it your own. I didn't respond. Not right away. She lingered by a display of toolboxes, her fingers tracing the edge of a shelf. Your father would have been proud, she said, would he? I asked, flatly, her mouth tightened. He wasn't always good at showing it, but, Mom, I interrupted, why are you here? She didn't answer. Just looked at me with that same conflicted look she'd worn the day she signed the business over. Regret, maybe. Or guilt dressed up as concern. I just wanted to see it, she said finally. To see you. Then she left. No apology. No explanation. Just silence trailing behind her. A week later, Owen showed up. He walked in like he belonged, same swagger, same smile, just dulled now. He looked tired. Life hadn't been as kind to him lately, I could tell. Karma has a way of catching up. Even if it takes its time, he wandered through the aisles before finally approaching the counter. Place looks great, Nate. Seriously. I didn't think you'd actually pull it off. I said nothing. He leaned forward, elbows on the counter. Listen. I'm not here to fight. I know we weren't exactly fair to you. Fair, that word hung in the air like smoke. I screwed up, he added. A lot. I know that. Just figured it was time I said something. But he didn't say sorry. Not exactly. Not in the way I'd spent years wishing he would. Still, I saw something different in his eyes this time. Not arrogance. Not pity. Maybe it was shame. Maybe it was envy. Or maybe, finally, respect. He tapped the counter twice and said, take care of yourself, little brother. And just like that, he was gone. I stood there a long time after, alone at the register, staring at the place where both of them had stood. I'd carried their betrayal like a second skin. It kept me alive. Kept me focused. But now, I wasn't sure I needed it anymore. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It just meant choosing peace over poison, and I was finally ready to put the weight down. I never said the words, "I forgive you," because the truth is, I didn't. Some things cut too deep to forget. Some scars don't fade. They just stop bleeding, but I let go of the anger. Not for them, for me. I'd spent years carrying the weight of what they did. The silence. The favoritism. The lies. And it shaped me, sure, but it didn't define me. Now, I wake up every morning knowing this life is mine. Ironclad Supply is more than just a store now. It's a symbol. Of grit. Of rebuilding. Of refusing to stay buried. We've expanded into 2 more towns, Topsham and Wiscasset. I've got a full staff of people who trust me. Who see me. I pay them well. I mentor the younger ones. I remember what it felt like to be overlooked, underestimated, invisible, and I make damn sure no one working for me feels that way. Every Thursday night, I teach a business fundamentals class at the local community college in Bath. It's not a big lecture hall or anything fancy, just a dozen folding chairs in a multipurpose room. But the young men who come in, I see versions of myself in all of them. Some of them are angry. Some of them are quiet. Some don't even know they're broken yet. But they show up. And I tell them the truth, that you don't need your family's blessing to build a life, that being forgotten doesn't mean being worthless. That the people who doubt you now might one day rely on you to keep them afloat. I don't tell them every detail of my past. I don't need to, they can hear it in my voice, they see it in what I've built. Sometimes, I drive by the old Callahan house. It's smaller than I remember. I don't stop. I don't need to. Whatever ghosts live there aren't mine anymore. Mom still sends cards on my birthday. Short ones. No apologies, no explanations. Just, hope you're well. Owen sent me a picture when his son was born. I didn't reply. But I saved it. Maybe one day, when the kid's older, I'll tell him about the time his dad came to me broken, and I didn't slam the door shut, maybe, but for now, I keep moving forward. I have my own place, my own business, my own life. No shadows. No begging to be seen. I don't need their name to matter. I made my own, and when people ask, "How'd you get here?" I just smile and say, "I wasn't supposed to, they tried to bury me, but I wasn't the seed they thought I was. I was the storm, and now I grow on my own terms." Thanks for listening to my story, how I reclaimed my life after family trauma. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, like your voice didn't matter, I hope this reminded you that you can rise above it. You don't need their approval to build a life that's yours. I didn't just survive, I took back control, on my terms. And so can you. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. Have you been through something similar? I'd love to hear your story, and remember, you are not what they did to you, you are what you choose to become. Until next time, stay strong. Stay rising. And stay you.